listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author Sarah Box, where you get the inside scoop on the steps action takers and decision makers take to align their purpose to their principles and achieve their goals in business and life. We focus on the mantra, no labels, no limits, no excuses. And now, without further ado, please welcome your commanding coach with plenty of chutzpah and heart, Sarah Box.
Hi, everyone. This is Sarah, your host of the No Labels, No Limits podcast. First, I want to start by thanking you for joining us again, because for me, this is a passion project. This podcast is about shedding limiting labels and beliefs. And I know firsthand from myself and from clients that it doesn't take much of a label to make you doubt yourself. And we want to bust through limitations so we can each shine our lights brighter in the world and, frankly, have a good time doing it as we lift others up. So this week, I'm really excited. We're going to be joined by Jill Strickland Brown. Jill is an entrepreneur. She's an author, and she's founder of Frox. We're going to talk about that in more detail, making her way into the fashion industry for more than 30 years. She has worked as a 7-figure sales rep. Those are big numbers, pretty fun numbers. And she's owned luxury boutiques, several of them, but now she's focusing on one and a different business model, or an expanded business model, which I think you'll be really interested in learning about. I know I am. She organizes events that also connect with and empower women, and she is the author of Behind the Button. We're going to talk about that book. It sounds really interesting to me, and I'm a book hound. And she is a featured contributor in the book Success Reimagined. She resides in Pennsylvania. She enjoys spending time with her family and invites the next chapter of her life with open arms, running base stitch kind of mindset. If you sew, you know what that means. If you don't, just know that it's very forgiving. It's very forgiving. One of my favorite stitches. So today I'm going to ask Jill to share about her journey in life and fashion, what she's learned, and how she's used that to help others live without labels or limits. And we're going to talk about her book, like I said. So with that, as an introduction, let's welcome our guest, Jill Strickland Brown. Hi, Jill.
Hi, how are you? I'm so excited to be here.
Too.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, do you go by all three names, Jill Strickland Brown, Jill Strickland?
I go by Jill Strickland Brown because there's a Jill Strickland that's an artist, and there's a Jill Brown that's a workout gal. So there's no Jill Strickland Brown in the world. So that's what, so there you go.
So I kind of like I like the Jill Strickland. I mean, there's just something about the cadence of it too.
Yes, well, Brown means a lot to me. When you read my book, that's my grandma, and she lit up her room, and she was definitely a style influence for me. So that name means a lot to me. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, if you listen to the podcast, you know that I like to start asking our guests a question, and that's whether there's something you do every day that keeps you focused on your own dreams and goals, and from a whole self perspective, not just work.
So every day I call it the holy hour. And what I do is I get up in the morning, I do something Mel Robbins inspired me to do, which is the 5-second rule. So I get up, I put my feet on the ground, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I am grateful. And I hit the ground and say, what am I grateful for today? I don't touch that phone. I do some yoga. I light a candle. In the winter, it's nice because I get to see the sunrise. I do a little meditation, and then I read something inspiring. I eat a healthy breakfast, shower, and go to work. So the holy hour is very important to me. So I need to take care of myself before I take care of everyone else. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
I do something similar, but honestly, the more I do it, the longer the hour goes.
Right.
Oh, well, that was great. Can I just do another 10 minutes of that?
Right. Absolutely.
It's funny. Well, let's dive in. You have been described as a free-spirited, out of the box, and everything is possible kind of girl. So would you kind of share a bit about your journey and what led you into the fashion industry? You said your grandmother has some role there, yes?
She was an inspiration. I mean, she would just walk in the room and everyone wanted to talk to her and be with her. And she just had very cool style. So definitely as a young girl, that was, something that she was an inspiration. And then really, I was bartending at night and I was a little bored during the day. So I wanted to go in this boutique and get a job. And she said, well, I don't need anyone, but my sons own a clothing manufacturer and they need someone to answer the phone. I was like, I can answer the phone like nobody's business. And that was the best job I ever had. So it really taught me the foundations of the fashion industry. They did garment dyed clothing. So I learned all about dye baths and fit and drape. And I still use those skills today. And in my book, I equate the dye bath to women who have their challenges. So, you immerse fabric into scalding hot water. And then when you pull it out, it's more beautiful and more textured. So I think women, when we go through those struggles, when we come out of that lifestyle bath, we have stretch marks and wrinkles of a life well lived and more beautiful and more textured than when we came out. So that's kind of the basis of it. And then really Frox, which is actually being rebranded and will be called Behind the Button, is a place where, we educate women how to accentuate. Again, we teach them about fit and drape, whereas my foundations came from, and how to accentuate their, body shape. So we teach them, we educate them. So
I want to talk about that a little because as you and I were chatting before I pushed the go button on record, I was telling you that I started working with a gal. I think she and I've worked together a couple of years on different things, some of fashion, color, then some more spiritual. It's interesting. But we started with what you're talking about. And for me, I realized I never thought about that much. I wished I'd known, but I just never did it. And so I'm curious, when you work with women, what are some of the surprises they find for themselves?
Well, it's really interesting. There's no woman, I've stood by that mirror for 20 years, that comes out and is like, I am amazing and I look fabulous. Never happened. They always like, my stomach, my butt, my knees. I'm like, knees? Really? My arms, my neck. So, the surprise that I give them is to show them, this is how it drapes over your hip. If you want to hide your belly, let's get something with a princess seam, or, let's put on a necklace that lifts the focus up to your face and away from. So I just teach them that. And they're always like, I never thought of it. Or I'll get behind them and show them drape. And they're like, I love it. I've never thought and then putting things together. It's funny. I can't remember what I had for breakfast, but I remember everything in their closets. So I'm like, this piece will go back with that blue shirt that you bought, 2 years ago or whatever. So that's really funny too. So they're always surprised how we put it together, how we make their bodies look fantastic. And yeah, that's my passion for sure.
So it sounds like you probably have some longtime customers, though, as a result of that, because that's a very intimate and honest conversation to be able to have with someone.
Yeah. So most of my customers have been with me from the beginning. So I opened when I was 35. I'm now 55. So they've definitely been on that journey with me. So yes, some of them, and it's actually really cool now. My original customers, now I'm dressing their daughters because their daughters are about 25, the same age as my daughter, and they're getting their first job and they're wanting, not to buy things from the cheap throwaway stores, and they want something nice. And they grew up watching mom look really, really good and confident. So that's kind of cool. So yes, definitely some, I call them the OG Frox girls, the originals, so yeah. And that is actually, again, talking about my book a lot because it's all based on the store. The byline is stories that thread us together. And you're absolutely right. That's a very vulnerable situation when you're, in that fitting room and, someone's assessing your body shape and you're unclothed. So one, I don't take advantage of that trust. And two, what I found, it's interesting that the dye bath, we all go through challenges, and I went through some challenges. And when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, I started sharing my story. They start sharing their story. So we share stories, and you realize you're not alone. So that's a big theme in the book. And we always say, stories that thread us together, and that we're all interwoven, like, a fabric. So that's a very, beyond the dressing them and making them feel good, is realizing they're not alone. So that's a cool theme.
Do the women that you work with ever, I'm reflecting back on what you said, but they'll come in and say, like my butt, my thighs, my knees, my blah, 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 right? We all do it. We probably all have a litany in our head. Well, this first, then this, right? Do you have anyone who said, you know what? I kind of like them the way they are now because they've learned to see them through a different lens? Their selves and their body is what I'm asking about.
A lot of my women are really cool and they're super inspired. And, it's funny, these people are, Botox and wanting to be youthful. And I have to say, these women are incredible. They're 20 years older than me, or more, 70, 80. And I'm like, I want to be them. They're cool ladies. And we actually have we do a fashion show 2 times a year, and we use customer models. And we have this model that's 80. She is 88 now, and she rocks that runway, and everyone screams and yells. And she is one beautiful lady, and they love her. The young girls, whatever. When Martha comes out, she's the star of the show. So they do accept their body shape, and it's because we've taught them how to look good. And you're right, as you get older, you just and my women that do have issues with, this or that, I'm like, this is what a 55-year-old woman looks like. This is what, and be proud of it, because you know what, those wrinkles and
I earned everyone.
You've birthed children. That's, you've done amazing things, and those wrinkles around your eyes are laugh lines. You know what I mean? So I always say they're badges of honor. Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, right? I've got a few years on you too. But, it was funny because I actually said that to this gal. I said, I just can't wear that. And she goes, why? And I said, I don't like my knees. She goes, there's nothing wrong with your knees. And I go, well, right, look. Exactly. And then I looked through hers, and then I went, you know what? Okay, right. They're fine. I rode horses. I injured one skiing. It's like, what the heck, man? They're good. My legs are good.
Who's riding horses and skiing? You go, girl. That's amazing, right?
I gave up the skiing. It was too dangerous for me. You know what? You have to have a certain, this is what I've learned about really good skiers. They're not afraid of getting injured. They're thoughtful, they're talented, they're skilled, blah, blah, blah. But there is a risk in putting the brakes on, because you can hurt yourself when going faster and falling quicker is better for you. So I went, oh, that tells me something about me. Yeah. And
I equate skiing to, because I am a skier as well. I'm in Pennsylvania, of course. I equate that to life. So I always say, you don't go straight down the mountain. That's how you hurt yourself. You take you do S curves, which you go horizontally down the mountain and make little S's.
And snow plow in every now.
Yeah, and you get down the mountain and you look back and go, wow, I just did that. Yeah. So I think, take little S curves in life and you'll get down that mountain, no problem.
So when you talk about hosting events for women, are those your fashion shows that you're talking about?
Absolutely. Fashion shows. It's, we do a lot of events, but I would say the highlight of the year is the fashion show, and what they love. We just had one where it's women of every shape, every age, every color, everything, all diverse. And it's amazing every time that every woman looks amazing. And it's all these outfits from one little store. And when they stand on that runway and the finale and everyone's screaming and yelling and clapping for them, it's magic.
Well, let's pivot just a little bit, not a lot, because fashion's important. It runs through your book, and it's analogous to many things. But to what degree does attitude and self-possession matter when you're, no matter what you're wearing, right? Because I've seen some women who could be wearing the rattiest clothes and you're going, man, she's stunning. And there's nothing that stands out. I mean, she's not a model.
I think they're the most beautiful. those women. And I think that's life, like you said. And, you have that confidence in life. And part of that is, when I make them look great, the reason I do that is so that they do have the confidence to either fake it till they become it or go out and impact the world. So you don't have to worry about your clothes. You feel great about yourself. So then you can go do, be the best mom. You can go out in your community. You can do that job interview or, help that client. And they go out and they impact the world. They really, really do. I'm part of so many women's empowering groups. And when you make them feel great, they do, women lift women up and women help others. And so when you lift a woman up, she helps a community.
That's just how we are.
Yeah, we're just that way, right?
It's true. You watch women golfers, right? They're all, at the end, they're all cheering each other. Very rarely is someone all mad because they didn't win.
No.
And I'm thinking, way to go, gals. It was hard, tough going. Way to be great sports women. So let's talk about your book. What prompted you to write it?
So that's really interesting. I had no idea I was going to write a book. I actually have a learning difference. So as you can see, I have ADD and I talk really fast. And I have so many things going on in my head, but I struggled putting it down on paper. So that was something that was so empowering, the fact that I even wrote a book. But really, I had a publicist that I worked with to do all the events, and that's the Success Reimagined. And she wanted to share that story of how I pivoted. And it was after 9/11, which is so kind of funny coming after COVID, because that seems so small compared to COVID. But at that time, I was in New York, and I just said, I want to be close. I want to be a block away from my children, because if something ever happens in the world, I want to be close to them. So she wanted me to share that story. And I said, no problem, I'll be in that book. I said, but I've always wanted to write a book. And she said, well, I'll hook you up with my publisher. And and then the rest is history. Yeah. So very cool.
And then how long? So you had a learning challenge. How did you get past that? Could you share with our listeners in case someone has that and says, but I can write then?
Tenacity, resilience, and like you said, that confidence. Like I had a ghostwriter who wrote it, but as I read it, it wasn't my voice. So actually, I've touched every word in that book because she can't read my mind. And as I wrote things, all these memories came. I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. Resilience, tenacity. My son has dyslexia, and it's a little more challenging for him. I just struggle. Well, it's a form of dyslexia that I have. I don't have flipped the words around like him. Persistence, tenacity. I never give up, ever. Yeah.
Well, and it also shows that, we have our assumptions about how things get done. Mm-hmm. And yet I've yet to find a problem that someone else doesn't have a different way of approaching. You just have to keep looking. And so a ghostwriter, like some people say, well, if I didn't write it, it's not my thing. The heck it's not, right?
That's your word. Well, the other thing that's really interesting in doing the research, so many entrepreneurs, so many leaders, so many actors are dyslexic. Very successful people are dyslexic because just what you said, they had to figure out how to do it different. And had to work, like I always had to work harder than where it came easier to someone else. So I guess that's where the resilience and the tenacity came in, is like, I have to work twice as hard.
Well, the choice could have been for you to just go into a shell and not risk being ridiculed, right? So, first you had made the commitment to yourself, but it doesn't sound like that was ever a question to you.
I don't know about that. There was a time where I went in a shell and I thought people would judge me. And that's where the stories that thread us together is when I said, okay, I'm going to be, because I have a hard time with vulnerability. And when I started sharing stories and people said, yeah, my brother, my sister, my niece, my nephew, my son, I was like, oh. And then I said, okay, well then I'm not alone, so it's okay. And especially, oh my goodness, putting a book out there, it's out in the world. And that was really strange. So I'm in a Barnes and Noble and I'm starting to share a story, or I share a story with someone. They're like, yeah, I know it's in the book. And you're like, how do you know me? Oh, right. That's right. It's in a book and it's on Amazon. Oh my God. So you put it out there and it's out there, so that's tricky too.
It's tricky, but it's a freeing kind of tricky.
Oh, it's definitely freeing. Yeah, it let me let go of those stories, and I'm done with them now. They're on paper and they're out there and everybody knows about them. And then book 2, I want to go further behind the button, but I want to live it a little bit. I want to say, okay, these were my challenges, and I've done this now, and these are the tools that got me there. Yeah, so that's book 2, I think.
Well, I had a question. Book 2, when's that coming out first? When's the book coming out?
Oh, I have no idea. I have to go live it first. It's my book is only a year old, so I'm still talking about this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can circle back when it comes out.
I'll come back with that one.
Good. So I want to come back though. There's a question. You already talked about the dye bath, but I noticed another analogy in your book, and that is of investment pieces, right? So can you tell people what that means if it's not a familiar term, but then why you use that analogy in the book, what it means to us?
Oh, in investment
in the context of your book. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's really, so my store is on trend, but not trendy. And that's how, people say to me all the time, I have a shirt from 15 years ago that I still have. So the quality is important. And there's a couple reasons you want investment pieces. One, you want to be able to pull them out year after year. So they're classic. And then we teach people how to wardrobe build. Mary comes in, I'm like, you have that white shirt, you have that black pant. Don't buy it again from me. Put this, this with it. So A, wardrobe building, and B, which is interesting, my daughter's generation really gets this. It's sustainable. So when you don't continue to buy clothes and throw them away, especially the throwaway fast fashion, they call it, one of our biggest environmental problems is polyester not breaking down in the earth, and our landfills are full of clothing. So when you have a top that lasts 15 years, you're not putting more things in the earth. And I try to work with natural fibers and cottons and linens for just that reason as well. They're biodegradable. So, yeah. And then my daughter went to FIT, and this is pretty cool too. So now they do this, it's called reverse cycling. So they put bins in, or they're working on putting bins in clothing stores and actually melting down the polyester and making bottles.
I saw that.
Yeah. Is that cool? And so I have jeans that are made out of bottles. I have clothes that are made from bottles. So kind of cool too. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. And I have some clothing. I never would have purchased it, right? Because first of all, I don't know to shop there, but so simple, right? But cotton. And that's what this gal, she says, I get a link, buy this.
Right.
And
exactly.
This is your size, buy this. I said, I don't need it. She goes, buy it.
Right.
And I'm going, okay.
You'll have it forever.
That's what she said. And I says, I probably won't wear it often. She goes, you could wear that once a year and it'll still be good. Right.
And we teach about the little black dress. I'm like, that is classic. Just whenever you get invited somewhere, you've got the dress instead of running around,
And then you can just dress it up.
Yep. Yep. So, and we teach them that too. Yep. All of that good stuff.
I love it. Let's talk about how you're reimagining business. So we started talking about Frox, you're rebranding it to Behind the Button, but you're also shifting up how you're working with folks, because I just assumed because you were so vivacious and you had all this good stuff going on, you might have multiple sites, which you don't, but you have multiple ways of reaching people.
Yeah. Well, every store now is a multi-channel store. So COVID, I'm going to tell you, it was happening, but COVID accelerated online. And the challenge of that, most of what my women, clothing is still tactile. People want to look, see, try it on. There's definitely virtual things that are going to happen where you're virtually trying things on. It's starting to happen. But I think there's still the human touch. So we're working on the challenge that we had is we were trying, how do you translate the amazing experience you have in store with a live person online? Because, you're in Nevada and I'm in Pennsylvania. So how do I do that for you? So we really are working on, and very close to launching that, is virtual styling. So you're going to take a picture of yourself and I'm going to see your body shape. And then you're going to take pictures of, clothing you want to work with. And then we'll make it like puzzle pieces. So we'll make new outfits for you. And then just like your friends say, buy this shirt. You need a white button down shirt to make this work. And then we'll actually reimagine your closet. Yeah.
Oh, I got one of those, buy this skirt, right? And last year, and I said, this is my mindset. There is no way on God's green earth I'm spending that kind of money for that skirt. I'm sorry, I won't wear it, blah, blah, blah. So life goes on. And I send her a thing. I says, hey, when you're out looking around, I says, could you find me something like this, right? And I just described what I was looking for. She sends me something in a week or so. She goes, see if this is what you're looking for. And then she says, oh, by the way, it's very similar to what I recommended a year ago. And I said, but you know what? My head wasn't in the space a year ago to do that. I had to grow.
You had to imagine yourself in that. And we also do that. And I'll talk about that at the end. For all your podcast listeners, they can jump on my website and
sweet.
We have a discount code where actually I think it's free right now. They can have like a half-hour consultation with me for free so that you're,
listeners, I'm going to tell you, no matter how fashion savvy you think you are, this is a gift to give yourself, because having someone simplify how you think about your stuff it's a gift. And there are some people, Jill is one of them, who can see for you, and I'm sure her team is, who can see quickly for you what's going to help you. And you can just be honest. So don't wait. Like they say, run quick. So that's why I wanted to talk about the investment pieces, because that's what I see. And someone told me that when I was in my late 20s, and I was traveling and I wanted to buy a blazer, which was 4 times what I had budgeted. She goes, listen, I promise you will have this for decades. It's classic. Well, don't you know, I still have it.
And we also teach, we're more than a clothes. We're more than just selling clothes. We're educating. So, they'll say, I'm going away. I'm like, I'm going to give you 6 pieces to put in your suitcase. Take that. That'll get you through the week. And they're like, no. I'm like, yes. Do what I say. Listen.
Don't argue with me.
I always say, I say, the women that let me do my job are successful. Let me do this is what I do all day, every day. Yeah. Let me do it. You'll not ask the doctor, hey, how are you going to do surgery on me? You kind of let him do his job. So let me do my job and it'll all work out. Yeah.
That's a really good point. I really can't imagine telling my doctor, hey, listen, when you do that test, do it this way.
Yeah, right.
Oh, man. So when people read your book, what do you hope they take away from it?
I hope that you find out your why and that you go after your why with tenacity and resilience, and no matter what you're going through, and we all have challenges in life. We've all had hurdles that we've had to go through. But I think hopefully when they read my story, it resonates with them and they say, wow, I see myself in that story and I'm going to go live my why and I'm going to go impact the world. And this is what God put me on the earth to do. And that is my purpose. So I think when you align yourself with your purpose, you're limitless.
Well, clearly you've done that. So let's go back to what you mentioned. Let's find out what is the best way for people to connect with you and where should they get your book?
So the book is on Amazon, and please leave me a review. I would love good or bad because I'm working on the second one. So go on Amazon, you can grab the book and it's behind the button, obviously. And just jump on my website. You'll get in my world and you'll see, the book, you'll just jump in my world, and it's Behind the Button by Jill.com.
So we'll have that in the show notes so everybody can see that. And easily find you. And I'm not joking. Go on there and get the freebie she's offering and give yourself a treat, because and when it's no longer free, do it anyway.
Well, yeah, they just have to go under my media tab, which will show, the thumbnail of you, Sarah, and all my podcasts. And then, just push the red button and you get me. Yep.
Awesome. That'll be great. Yeah. So Jill, I want to thank you so much for being on this week's podcast, and ask if there were one piece of advice you would give your 8-year-old Jill, the version of you at 8, what would that be?
That would be, have the courage to believe in yourself. I think, we all have people around us, we're born free spirits and we don't have all those hangups. And then somebody along the way teaches us that, you're not that. So I would say believe in yourself is huge.
Okay, folks, that's where we're going to leave it this week, because I couldn't add on to that. So thanks for listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it with a friend. You can tell from Jill and her energy and her passion, it's definitely worth sharing. And if you haven't already, join our growing community over at sarahbox.com. And we appreciate walking alongside each and every one of you as you bust through your own limiting labels or beliefs so that you can shine brightly into this world.
You've been listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author, change agent, and strategic vision coach, Sarah Box. You can grab the show notes and find out how to work with Sarah at sarahbox.com/No Labels, No Limits podcast. We'd love this podcast to reach as many people as possible. So please remember to rate, leave a 5-star review, and share the podcast with someone you think would get value from this conversation. Until next time, keep taking those daily action steps to align your purpose to your principles and achieve your goals in business and life.